Hey, UFC betters. JD from Best MMA Picks here. Got another live broadcast. We're going to keep this one short and sweet. Coming off this last card tonight. I've actually been fighting a respiratory infection, so kind of had to lay low here, and I have a really bad headache and fever. So I'm just going to try to do this the best that I can, and I'm going to just be honest on stuff that I'm not 100% sure on. That I haven't really done a whole lot of background on. So, starting off the card, this is just the Team McGregor, Team Favor, Ultimate Fighter finale. And I have really not followed this season, and I won't have time to watch any videos tomorrow of the season. But I will try to give you the best information that I can on this card regarding fighters that are, that I'm familiar with. First fight here, just on not super familiar with either of these guys. Just looking from what I see, pen and paper wise, Chris Grutzmaker is just mainly like a wrestler brawler style, whereas Laveris is more of a technical striker. And if I were just to take a lean on both these guys, I'd probably go with the wrestler brawler, just for the pure takedown abilities. I haven't seen any footage on Abner Laveris, so I don't know how good his takedown defense is. And if you look on a lot of the books, these guys aren't even listed on the odds, so we might not even be able to bet them. I'm not sure, when those lines are going to come up and if they really are going to actually have them. So next fight here, I did actually look at some footage on both these guys. Joby Sanchez is he's a Jackson Winklejohn fighter, more of a technical striker / boxer. Has some wrestling credentials, but he's actually fairly weak in his wrestling. Something that he's been working on, according to his camp. Tried to strengthen that hole in his game with the wrestling. But he has really good feints, really good movement, likes to circle the cages. He does that Jackson Winklejohn signature, circling the cage, really evasive striking where he pops in and out on guys and likes to use distance, a lot of feints, stuff like that. Gene Herrera is more of a, not a brawler, but very explosive, athletic fighter and striker. Probably a little bit better wrestling advantage with Herrera versus Sanchez, but I would imagine both these guys are going to keep things on the feet. Sanchez is more of the volume striker, but I would say I would give a little bit more of an aggressiveness factor to Herrera. And Sanchez seems to be, from what I've seen, a little bit more timid and with his striking and stuff like that. So, I'm not too sure on these. Both these guys are pretty much even odds. It's kind of a coin flip, to be honest. But if I were just to pick one guy out of the two that I just had a feeling who's going to win, I'd go with Herrera. I think he's just got a little bit more aggressiveness. I think the judges are going to notice that. I think he's going to be chaining submissions together, and he's going to be really good on his transitions. If he can get Sanchez to the ground and exploit that, ground weakness of his, I think that, he's got a shot to win this one, probably by a sub. And if not, he still can, if he's aggressive enough on the feet, he can avoid getting picked apart if he's smart. So I would give the coaching advantage to Sanchez, though. So keep that in mind. Probably going to lay off that one. Next fight, we have Ryan LaFlare, Mike Pierce. LaFlare only has one loss in the UFC. Mike Pierce is 17-6. Definitely more raw fighter, and Mike Pierce. Ryan LaFlare is got really high wrestling credentials. He's actually coming off a loss to Damian Maia, whom he actually went all 5 rounds with, which was quite impressive. Didn't get finished, got taken down 5 times. So he pretty much got dominated on the ground. Being even as high of a level grappler as he is, Maia just took him to school. So, but LaFlare was holding his own. He survived. He weathered several submission attempts, ultimately losing by a unanimous decision. But it really was a test for Ryan LaFlare, and it showed what he's made of to go, you know, head to head on the ground with a guy like Damian Maia and be somewhat comfortable there. So I definitely am not going to put too much thought into this. I think that Ryan LaFlare is probably going to end up getting a unanimous decision victory over Mike Pierce. He may even get a stoppage. He's got stoppage wins at about a 60% rate if you look at his statistics. He's got about a 36% decision rate. So you know, keep that in mind with you know, the over under. Both these guys have pretty high rates to going to decision, and I think it'll probably end up going to decision. So my prediction for this one is for Ryan LaFlare to beat Mike Pierce by unanimous decision. Next fight, Konstantin Irikin and Gabriel Gonzaga. Gonzaga's got a lot of experience for heavyweight. He's fought a whole list of very experienced fighters, elite fighters. He's had victories over elite fighters, but he's also had lots of losses to elite fighters as well. But he can hold his own against just about any of the heavyweights. Fought against Junior Dos Santos, Stipe Miocic, Matt Mitrione. He's lost to all three. He was off of a, you know, like a three fight losing streak. It looks to me like his chin is kind of getting to be. I don't know what I'm not too sure about his chin anymore. I think he's gotten banged up pretty good. It's kind of like the whole Bigfoot Silva, you know, theory where the chin just kind of, it takes its toll eventually, and then you don't even have to hit a guy that hard to get him to go to sleep. So, you know, he's been knocked out quite a bit. If you look at all these fights that he's been in, he's been knocked out, and he's knocked out other guys quite a bit. So, you know, just keep that in mind when you know, before you bet this fight. And I think that he's going to be a little bit slower than Irikin. I looked at some footage of Irikin. He's a master's in hand-to-hand combat. He's got a huge boxing pedigree. The guy, he's got an 89% TKO KO rate. His only weakness really is getting taken down, which was exploited by Victor Pizza his last fight, and he actually lost that one. I think this guy's got a fresh chin, and he doesn't get hit very often. He's super fast for heavyweight. If you look at some of his footage, he's just literally obliterated guys every single time in the first round. I think he has like 8 first-round stoppages. So the guy hits extremely hard, and he's very fast. Kind of reminds me of like a Andrei Orlovsky almost, but bigger, a bigger freight train version of Andrei Orlovsky that hits harder and that's just as fast. So looking at this and looking at the experience of Gonzaga, I want to give the advantage to Gonzaga, but you know, I'm pretty sure that this is going to end up one way, and it's going to be Gonzaga getting knocked out. Just because of this guy, I don't think he's going to be able to take Irikin down. I don't think he's going to be fast enough to. The only chance I think that Gonzaga has is landing one of those vicious leg kicks or like a head kick, which could happen, but I think that Irikin's going to be too fast, and unless he walks right into a leg kick, I really don't see that happening, to be honest. I see him getting the better of Gonzaga, and he's got ridiculous power. He literally knocks guys out. It looks like he's going to kill them. You can look him up on YouTube. Very interesting. Moving on. So my prediction for this fight is for Konstantin Irikin to defeat Gabriel Gonzaga, probably by knockout, more than likely in the first round. So we've got Julian Erosa, Ultimate Fighter, Uriah Faber team member, and Marcin Wursasek. I don't think I pronounced that correctly, but Conor McGregor's team. Both these guys have similar records. Funny thing with Julian Erosa is he's actually from an area that I used to live in, Yakima, and I've actually seen this guy fight at a casino before when he was in one of the local circuits. Really nice guy. I actually played poker with him several times at some of the local casinos. So he likes to play poker, but I actually didn't even know that he was on The Ultimate Fighter because I'm not following this season. But I have seen him fight before against guys locally, and he's a pretty good boxer. He's got a lot of boxing experience, and I'm not sure about his wrestling, how good that is, but I'm sure he's improved if he's in the UFC. But I just knew him for being really good with boxing feints. He was barely even came out with a scratch, and I remember this other guy was just completely bloodied. This was like 5 years ago. So, I mean, the kid's, he's really young, but he's got a lot of experience. I don't know much about the other guy that he's fighting, so I really can't make, prediction on this fight. And I probably will lay off, but I'll probably have to go with the hometown hero for me, Rosa, to defeat this guy, probably by a KO or TKO, hopefully. So I'll be rooting for Julian, Juicy J, and hopefully he gets that victory there. But if you look on the sports books, you're not going to see anything right now for odds there. And I don't know why. It might change tomorrow sometime. And, quite frankly, I'm going to be too busy to really analyze that fight. So we're going to probably just lay off. But, if you want to bet it, you want to gamble, go ahead. Next fight that may be worth a look here that actually has some odds is Tetsuya Kawajiri versus Jason Knight. Jason Knight only has one loss, and he's a newcomer to the UFC. Kawajiri has a whole listing of opponents that he's fought that are very experienced. But he's also kind of had his peak several years ago, and now he's kind of on the decline. Still definitely a very skilled fighter. Very heavy top control. Likes to take guys down with his black belt judo, and very muscular and strong. Very strong fighter. So I'm not too sure about Jason Knight, how he's going to fare here. Seems to have a pretty good record. I'd like to look at more footage on the guy, but he's actually about a 2-to-1 underdog. So, something that might be worth a look there. They don't have the odds posted here, but if you were to look on like Nitrogen Sports book, you'd see that Kawajiri's almost a 2.5-to-1 favorite. So it may be worth a shot at this guy. He's only lost one time. I don't know how he's going to handle a heavy grappler like Kawajiri, though. So I think it's worth a shot there, but I don't know that we're going to play that. So, but we'll see. Excuse me. So the next fight here on the card, let's see here. We got Evan Dunham, Joe Lozon. Really simple. Both these guys are really good fighters. Both very scrappy guys. Dunham has a wrestling background. Lozon has, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background, big time submissions game. Very talented East Coast fighter. He's got a 71% submissions rate, and Evan Dunham's a tough guy. That wrestling of his can pretty much control this fight. I really don't see it going any other way. I see Lozon, definitely has a good attack from the bottom, from the ground, on his back, off his back. Dunham's much better, when he's, with the top control, when he's controlling guys. So, and that's where I see this fight going. You might see a couple sweeps from Lozon. You might see a couple armbar attempts and or leg locks. I mean, he's capable of just about everything here. But I do not see him. Dunham's a pretty slippery guy. I see him being able to defend those and ultimately control Lozon pretty much all the rounds. We may even see a TKO, ground and pound victory for him. But he's got a pretty good takedown defense, good defensive wrestling, and the odds reflect pretty much the way that I think about this fight. So my lean is for Evan Dunham to defeat Joe Lozon by unanimous decision. Moving on to the next fight, one that I'm looking forward to quite a bit is Edson Barboza versus Tony Ferguson, both ranked number 6 and 7 in the UFC right now. Featherweight, I believe it is, or no, lightweight. Both these guys are very similar Ferguson has a couple more victories than Barboza. But this is going to be a very exciting fight. I think both these guys are going to tag each other. Wouldn't be surprised to see one of the guys wobble and actually get rocked, maybe even finished. It just kind of depends on who has the better movement and who's going to be the one to make the first mistake. And I think Ferguson is he's got a really high fight IQ and he's got really good movement. Barboza has good movement as well. He's a very defensive kind of counter striker, likes to utilize the soccer, type background that he has with the leg kicks, wicked leg kicks. They're like whips. Ferguson has some pretty good leg kicks as well, but not quite like Barboza. Ferguson has really good boxing though. So, I mean, if I'm, seeing both these guys fight several fights, I know that Barboza has a chin problem. He tends to get tagged, lit up pretty quick, or, he does, he can land a good head kick knockout though. But I just don't see that happening here with Ferguson. Ferguson's got really good head movement, really good feints, good, just overall, the guy's hard to hit. And when you do hit him flush, he can handle it. He's got a chin. So I don't see this going in either way, but Tony Ferguson by, boy, I think it's going to be a TKO here. Maybe ground and pound or like tagging and then locking in a sub real quick. Maybe a rear naked choke. But I see him rocking Barboza, maybe like the first or second round, and then locking in a sub probably. That's how I see this one going down. But anything can happen. It's the UFC. Weird shit's happened lately, especially with these smaller cards. It seems like usually they're easier to predict, but that's going to be my lean is for Tony Ferguson to defeat Edson Barboza by TKO, third round probably. So going to the last two fights here, and we'll wrap things up. Artem Lubov and Ryan Hall. Neither of these guys I follow. I don't know much about either of them, and I haven't looked at any footage. So I'm just going to completely lay off of them. And there's actually no odds on these guys. So not even sure where they're going to go with this one, what they're going to open at, or, they probably have opened at other books, but probably not even worth betting. I don't like betting on a lot of Ultimate Fighter stuff, just because there's not a whole lot of background there, not a whole lot of footage for us to look at other than Ultimate Fighter. And usually those fights are only like 1 or 2 rounds. So I don't even know if these guys are actual Ultimate Fighter guys. Let me take a look here. Yeah, it looks like he's from Dublin. So yeah, this guy looks pretty well-rounded. Just going to lay off of this one altogether. I haven't had the time to cap it. This guy looks like he's on Team McGregor. He's also a training partner of Conor McGregor. So, I'm sure he's got some good training in with that camp, with that gym. But, I'm not too sure about these guys. I don't know much about them. So we're going to lay off of that. But if I were just to look at the two of these guys, from what I see here, would probably go with this guy, Artem Lubov. He looks like he likes to wrestle more. But, I'm not sure about this. I'm not going to try to pull something out of my ass here. Last fight, which I'm pretty excited for, Frankie Edgar versus Chad Mendes. A lot of people are liking Mendes here. I think Frankie Edgar is going to be too fast for Mendes. I think he's going to ultimately frustrate Mendes. Frankie Edgar's got good wrestling, good takedown defense. I don't think Mendes is going to be able to get him on the ground, and if he does, he's going to probably get back up to his feet rather quickly. Mendes is going to probably get a little frustrated with Edgar. Edgar's got an amazing chin. He's been through several hard hits from other fighters. I see Frankie Edgar just being one of those guys who can weather through just about anything. And maybe it's past his time now. Maybe it's Mendes' turn to win here. If he gets a nice KO. I just don't see Frankie getting KO'd. I could see him getting his nose broken and still fighting. So, and still winning. We've seen that before in the past. And I just see Frankie Edgar just having that mind over matter, all that heart that transfers to the judges and into victories. So my just from what I know from both of these fighters and from what I've seen, wrestling advantage goes to Mendes, but I don't think it's going to really matter much against Edgar. Striking advantage definitely to Edgar, speed advantage to Edgar. So, and I think that's what's going to win the fight. But if something weird happens here with the decision, we could see a bad judge's decision here, and we could see Mendes finally get a win. And I think Mendes is due for a win, and this might be his big win. That I don't want to talk too much about fixing, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some under the table deals that went on with the whole Conor McGregor thing, with how he just kind of stood around and let McGregor just kind of wail on him there in the third round. So maybe we might see Mendes actually win here, which wouldn't surprise me at all. So, but just looking at these two guys, knowing what I know about them, I got to back Frankie Edgar here with his speed advantage. I think he's going to land more hits. He's got better volume, and I think he's got more experience than Mendes. He's fought more championship rounds, and he is coming down a weight class as well. So he's more of at his natural weight, and I think he's done better since he's been here. So my final lean here on this card is for Frankie Edgar to defeat Chad Mendes by either split decision or unanimous decision. And I think it will go the distance. So that about wraps it up here for our broadcast. And I apologize, for me being sick and for getting this out late. I will try to get, my leans out. I may just do Periscope quick leans tomorrow. But I'm more comfortable with tomorrow's card than I am with the Ultimate Fighter card. So hope everybody has a good weekend. Enjoy the fights. Let's cash at the window. So all right, make sure you follow us on Instagram. We post pics there as well as Facebook. It's Instagram.com/best MMA picks and Facebook.com/best MMA picks. Have a good night, everybody.